Okay, it's 2 o'clock. We're going to call this special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. I am Martha Shoemaker, your first select woman. Jude Reed, our select woman, is online. And I believe that Mr. Lampos is on his way here. So he should be joining us as soon as he finds parking space, because it looks like it's a busy day on Lime Street. We're going to start with public comment, and we'll start with public comment first from the audience. I do ask that you come up here and speak, say your full name and your address so that we can put it into the record. And I do have some public comment notes that were sent in, just so that you know, also regarding speeding. And I'm just going to list them by name, but I have Joanne DeCamilla, Jeff Cooley, I have Jan Wasaki, and I also have a note from Julie and Ron Malloy. And those will be put into the minutes in full, their context. Okay, so is there anyone from the public that would like to come and speak? Thank you. Yep.
So before we get going, just introduce myself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
I'm Matt Weber. I'm your resident trooper. Alongside me is Officer Collins, Officer Solari, and Officer Kula.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Fred Gaston. My wife and I, Ann, live at 21 Ferry Road. We're relatively new to Old Lyme, but this has been an important topic to me as an avid biker and member. But anyway, to get into it first, I appreciate this meeting being organized. Given the turnout and the fact that we're having the meeting, obviously, I think a lot of people feel speeding is a major, problem in the town, and viable solutions are needed. With that in mind, my constituency from Ferry Road, but I'm sure I'm joined by Sil Lane and others, I wanted to try to, I did some research. Hopefully it will be helpful to bring some potential solutions to the table and highlight some studies that I did on traffic study. Each of us, and I'll try to move through this fairly quickly. Each of us doesn't have to look too far to see the speeding threat. In fact, just outside of this room, again, I'm relatively new, but I've taken the opportunity to speak, including to a gentleman right here, to some longtime residents on Lime Street. And they regularly see, and this is probably not new news, traffic going, not only way in excess of the speed limit, but, cutting the road. And I think particularly through the school zone. And I think that for all of us drivers, and even myself as a biker, we are terrified about a child running out from parked cars and at the crosswalk, and sort of people that are violating that. For curiosity, and I hope this wasn't improper, I bought a consumer radar gun for a day, and measured while the great majority of people on Ferry Road were obliging by the speed limit, there were many that were not. And what I came to find in my studies, and again, I don't hold myself out to be an authority, but it was very hopefully interesting for everyone here, is that in the case of cars transitioning from a faster road, i.e. 95 to Shore Road to, in this case, as an example, Ferry Road, they're sort of preconditioned to continue speeding. And we've noticed it, at the yellow flashing light, when they come around the corner, they've worked up a good head of steam. And again, not everyone, but many are going in excess of 40 miles an hour. That to me was interesting, that when I get to the bit about the permanent radar signs, they can be very effective, not only in school zones, but in those transitions. Maybe it's a transition from a Route 1 to a Sill Lane, or et cetera, et cetera. But if they're going fast to begin with, the studies confirm, and this is at national highway traffic level, safety level, and regional studies, that they're going to continue quickly through the residential streets. There are there are different, and again, there are different solutions for speeding depending upon where the speeding is occurring, according to the studies, and how fast the cars are going, as I said before, the transition to the slower limit. And some solutions are more effective than others. Some of the conclusions that I read were, unless the solutions are permanent, it's proven there is no long-term effectiveness. Once temporary radar trailers are removed, speeding almost always resumes. And with great deference, I suggest that perhaps the town should reconsider its proposed investment in more mobile radar trailers to more permanent and effective solutions as follows. Permanent radar signs versus mobile ones have been proven to have permanent effectiveness, especially, as I said, in school zones and these transitions, not to repeat myself. It seems like, and again, this is not my study, but 65% will self-check and slow down with a permanent radar sign, which is a big improvement, over nothing. I know that this next one is unpopular, but I wanted to make reference to speed, the difference between speed humps and speed bumps. Speed bumps, I believe, are what we have in the beach community, which bring people to, 1 to 3 miles an hour so they don't damage their car. Humps can sustain 15 to 25 miles an hour. They may or may not be impractical solutions. There's maintenance, they're very permanent once they're put in. But in the spirit of discussion, perhaps if permanent radar devices don't work, speed humps in certain areas could be considered as well. Almost wrapping up here. Interestingly, just some quick research, the permanent radar signs appear to be, and don't quote me on this, about $3,500 uninstalled. I realize there's, the labor cost of having them installed, and that appears to be about half the cost of a towed radar trailer. And so hence we could have 4 permanent signs with the 15,000 the town has allocated and perhaps budget for more. I realize installing many permanent radar signs might seem cost prohibitive. And again, this may not be popular, but if we couldn't get the budgeting, perhaps in certain areas, we consider a public-private, partnership. I myself would step up, for a sign like that. The balance of the points are not that I had are not speeding, so I'm going to reserve them for after the speeding discussion. It's more on traffic safety, but I don't think I've gone on long enough, so I don't think it's pertinent right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you want to provide me with a copy of that or even email it me, I can put it into the record as well.
Thank you. And I would be, again, with the short nature of this meeting, I didn't have a lot of time on the studies, but I'd be happy to send links or make copies, if people wanted to have a look, but it is very, very interesting.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you for hearing me.
Is there anyone else from the audience who would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Kay Clark. I live at 60-1 Neck Road. And we have a major speeding problem on 156 where I live. There are 3 driveways near each other. I'm the middle one. And we are very near a curve in the road. And if you go north on 156 beyond that curve, a mile or so north, it's a straight stretch. And everybody loves to speed coming south. And it's often very hard to get out of the driveway. When I first moved here about 9 years ago, I called and asked if there was anything, could we get a hidden driveway sign at least? And I was told I needed to talk to the state. So I did. And the state was totally non-responsive. They said, well, we don't really do hidden driveway signs anymore because they don't do any good. And maybe they don't. But there are a lot of them around, and at least would be a sign to put people on notice.
Okay, yes, thank you. For those of you who are on Teams, could you please mute yourselves because all the sounds, papers, pens, etc. Just please mute yourself at home. And then when it comes time for private, public comment for the Teams people, we will put you on. Thank you. Carolyn?
Carolyn Miranda, 2 Biscayne Boulevard. As Martha knows, I've been at selectmen meetings for the past 2 years talking about my concerns about speeding. All in particular down along the Shore Road where I live. It's just abominable. It's local people. It's these big rigs carrying, I don't know why they're going through that end of town with brand new cars. There's construction vehicles, I mean, just flying down the road, 55, 60 miles an hour.
What road are you on? I'm
I
sorry.
see, you know,
Ma'am, what road are you on?
Huh?
What road are you on?
I'm on Biscayne, corner of Biscayne. My living room and bedroom windows face 156. So I see it all the time, all day long, all night. I hear it at night and I see it every day. So it's extremely dangerous. I wouldn't walk myself at all down 156. I used to walk from my house on the opposite side of the pizza place to get the newspaper every day. I wouldn't step foot on that road now because people just fly and they don't have control of their cars. So anyway, I have a few thoughts. The patrol, nothing's got better. For a little bit in maybe September, you were out almost in front of my house across the street. And maybe made a little difference. I'm not sure, but the minute you weren't there, here we go again. So anyway, my thoughts are this. Now it's all around town and I'm glad people on Sill Lane and everywhere else have finally spoken up. It's tragic that it's all over town because one of these days we're going to have a lot of kids or adults killed. We're lucky that's not happened yet. Anyway, my thoughts are that we ought to have more frequent speed monitoring. If what goes on now, I haven't seen anything in a long, long time. And I'm all over town. I'm retired. I just don't see it. And it needs to be at hours. It can't, 2 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't do it. 1 o'clock in the afternoon doesn't do it. It's like 8:30 to maybe 11:30. And then there's a lull. And then maybe between 3 and 6. All over again. On Shore Road, it's just pretty terrible most of the time. Anyway, so I'm thinking more frequent speed monitoring. More consistent enforcement. I know that sometimes we tend to want to give warnings rather than tickets, but I truly think ticketing works because it hits them in the pocketbook in 2 ways. They got to pay a fine, but their insurance rates will eventually go up. And so maybe that will have a little more meaning. People will think a little bit harder about their driving habits. So ticketing, not warnings. New signage. I was up north last summer. We drove through Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. I'm not sure where exactly, but there was signage that said, as we entered one little town in Vermont, that's big, huge sign. It said, and it was white and it was nicely black painted and it had the seal of that, whatever the town was in Vermont. And it said, "We enforce posted speed limits." So I think, we enforce posted speed limits as appropriate here. And maybe those kinds of signs would be very appropriate as you enter town from 95 always and back roads up maybe, and maybe one right in the center of town or down on House Road where there's lots of traffic. So I'm hoping that this will be a productive meeting and get people think of better ways, more ways to tackle this problem and make it be a permanent, something permanent that's really going to slow things down before we have some tragic things going on here. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Yep.
Next. Come right up.
Hi. Hello. Hi. I'm Carol Patterson. Hi, Jude. I live in Lyme, but I came to this meeting because we have one zip code, 2 towns, and 1 high school. And I think we better pay attention, very careful attention to what's happening. First of all, I want to thank every single person in this room because it means you are paying attention. And it's a big deal. There's a lot going on out there. And we have to pay attention. My question is, what is it going to take? Is it going to take a dead neighbor, a dead dog, or a car full of dead kids? Police need support. Public health needs support. This is a public health issue. This is a public safety issue. Law enforcement agencies need to be respected, protected, and enforced and applied. Taxpayers need to be respected, and our children need to be protected. There's all sorts of things that go on. So apart from wanting to thank everyone here, I'm a parent and I am very close to the subject. I would like to say that Rosemary's and Marcello's hedges are a very, very loud warning. And the warning is it's very close to home. It's inside the home, it's outside the home, and it's really time that Lima Lime wakes up and grows some and does something about it, or our kids will not be safe, our homes will not be safe, our neighbors will not be safe, our friends will not be safe, our dogs will not be safe. And we've already had a lost generation, and I can assure you, we are headed toward another lost generation. So I want to say,
Thank you. Is your am I spelling your last name right? Patterson?
2 T's.
S-O-N? Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Nancy, you'll be next.
Hi, my name is Bill Folland. I live at 6 Duns Lane, which is right up from Library Lane. So we have a lot of experience with my wife and I walk the village quite often. I want to thank you very much for having this meeting. It's well overdue and very well needed. I believe that one solution to our current issue that we have is simply just enforcement of speeding regulations or just traffic violations in general. I firmly believe that our officers in town are doing a very good job. I believe they're doing exactly as they're being told to do. Okay. Our issue is that in Old Lyme, we really have 2 sets of rules for violations. We have one for the shoreline, specifically Hartford Avenue, which is very strictly enforced. Every violation, any parking violations, speeding violations, jaywalk violations. We all know that our officers do a very good job of maintaining that area down there. Unfortunately, for the rest of the town, all those regulations are going by. I'm going to give you a very good example. We walk Lime Street 3 or 4 times a week. We go to the ice cream store, get an ice cream when it's open. I will sit in front of that ice cream store. If 20 cars go by, 5 of them go through that stop sign. This is not an exaggeration. I will walk down Lime Street on the sidewalk. Thank God the sidewalk's there. We'll approach Ferry Road. And more often than not, there will be vehicles parked in a crosswalk, so you can't go across the crosswalk. There are vehicles that are parked outside of the parking spaces. There are vehicles parked in the fire zone. Now, this is not an occasional thing. This happens on a routine basis. on a routine basis. Every day I see that. I don't, not only I, everyone sees it. So we've got these two rules. Is the answer what we do on Hartford Avenue? Probably not. But the answer definitely is not what we do with the rest of the town. So the issue, and this is not a new issue, I've been here for 35 years. It's existed for 35 years. It's just gotten worse because we get more traffic, okay? So our officers are doing a good job. They're doing exactly as they're being told. This is my opinion. And what we need to do is reinforce to our officers the need to aggressively go after these speeders. On Library Lane where I live right up from Library Lane. There used to be people like me, it was an old folk neighborhood. Recently, there's been a lot of influx of new families with young kids. And as a previous commenter just said, this is going to end up tragic. I insist that we do something with enforcement. Signs up on Sill Lane. I just went up there today, 30 miles an hour. I have a hard time maintaining 30 miles an hour up there. I go to 32, 34, and I see the big flashing sign. I say, oh my God, am I going to get picked up or whatever? 30 miles an hour is a very reasonable low speed. Most cars are probably going 40 plus. You know, that's every day. I went 30.
Be sure.
But sorry, there's a dog speaking. Anyway, I've said my speak. You guys are doing a great job. I hope you get all the support you need from the leaders to crack down on speeding and other violations like what happens at the end of Lime Street and Ferry Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy O'Brien's next, and then we'll.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Brien, 11 Center Beach Avenue, live down at Hawksnest Beach. I really don't have any solutions for you or ideas for you. I just really wanted to stress that it's also important whatever happens down along the beach also. Our speed limits are only 20 miles an hour. People are going down the street 40, 50 miles an hour. They're flying through the stop signs. And during the summer season, when all those kids are on their bikes and scooters, there's been plenty of close, things where kids have come out into the road and potentially can get hurt. So I know people have asked us to look to see about getting new signage, more speed limit signs. People don't pay attention to it anyway, so I don't know what the solution is, but just want to make sure that you keep in mind the beach community, not only during the summer season, but also the rest of the year, because there are speeders there all year round. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Nancy. Next.
Hi, good afternoon. Maris Wax from 118 Sill Lane. I'm already on the record from last Monday evening's meeting, so I don't want to reiterate. But what I do want to say is that since last week, I've started to really, really pay attention. And because I live on Sill Lane, I know the speed limits and I know where they change. But what I hadn't realized was how badly posted they are. We need speed signs. We need the speed limit posted as you enter Sill Lane. And sorry to be contrary, but I don't think 30. I think 30 is too fast. I think that we need one speed limit for Sill Lane, and I would prefer to see it be at 25 because I live at the other end of Sill, which is really curvy. And as I did mention on Monday, there's nowhere if you're walking to get off the road at the farther end. So, and I will reiterate one thing, which is that I had mentioned about the Sill Lane being repaved this summer. My concern is that adds for speed because people can't resist nicely paved roads. And that's really concerning that the potholes are potentially keeping us safer. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The back.
Hi, John Acosta. I'm on 31 McCurdy Road.
First name again?
John,
Thank you.
recently built there 2.5 years ago. Appreciate you guys being there because I see you staked out a lot of times, but as soon as people seem to come around offline into McCurdy, especially now where the road's been paved, it's pretty fast. And you've had the speed signs out there, but it's kind of funny. People aren't gonna, even if you had the speed limit go 30, 35, people just don't. But I just want to concern, I notice in the morning, more so with school, people are going there, and then, of course, after school, and then, of course, you have people from work, but I'm concerned about people move pretty good there. I almost got wiped out, because my frontage is completely open to McCurdy Road, and if I'm out there working, again, people just don't pay attention, but just want to let you know that it's been moving pretty good out there. Okay, I appreciate your help though. Okay. Hey, thank
Can you spell your last name for me,
you.
please?
ACOSTA,
Again?
ACOSTA.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, sir.
RICK, Tony Ferry.
Thank you.
I would ask one thing of you actually before I make any comments, and that is, I realize what the title of this meeting is, but maybe if you could state when we've got the last comments here, what you're hoping to accomplish today. Because that might help shape the conversation further as going along. One thing I would say, in spite of the fact that our dear neighbor has done some studies, one I think that hasn't been done, and I don't think it would pay much benefit, is what the per capita number of police officers there should be in a town this size. The reason I bring that up is I suspect we're not understaffed. I also suspect that I could be wrong, that a lot of the problems that we're talking about are not a lack of police officers. I think the problem is probably way more complicated than that. And it's probably pretty easy to break the traffic laws in this town. Not because you don't see the signs or whatever, but because the police can't be everywhere. So the reason I asked what you're hoping to accomplish is that I suspect that, as we've seen in other towns with widespread traffic problems, it's probably not a series of problems that can be solved in a meeting like this. Or even maybe in a committee. I mean, we constituted a committee to look at the sidewalks on Ferry Road, which, forgive me, is, while there are some safety issues with that, is in no way comparable to the safety issues of the intersection of 156 and Ferry Road. We talk about, some of the folks have mentioned what could happen in the town. There have been fatalities at that intersection. And we haven't lived there very long, but we have witnessed a number of serious accidents at that intersection, and speeding and so on and so forth. So I think my hope is that not that we constitute a committee, maybe that's a first step, but to consider whether or not this is in fact a traffic engineering problem that should be studied town-wide by a professional firm. I think we provided funds to study the Halls Road improvements and had professionals look at that. Again, that isn't a safety issue. That's an economic development issue. For safety issues for our children and our families, so on and so forth, I think we ought to consider whether or not we should bring in some professionals to look at traffic issues town-wide. And God knows I don't want my taxes to go up any more than anybody else does. But I'm not sure that everything that we talk about today, that with all the good intentions and expertise in this room, that we could solve it ourselves. And we certainly don't want to solve it Band-Aid by Band-Aid. It'd be great if we could come up with a town-wide solution with a series of proposals, and then figure out how we fund them, whether it's signage, whether it's humps, whether it's going to the state, for instance, and talking to the state about whether the intersection at 156 should in fact be signaled as opposed to flashing. Ironically enough, although that's where we live, we're probably the safest people in town at Ferry Road and 156, because we know what what the people do come around those corners. So we're absolutely on our guard. The people we've seen injured since we've lived here at Ferry Road and 156 are typically not local. And it's a bad intersection geometrically. It's a bad intersection speed-wise, vision, so on and so forth. And again, the state's involved, the town's involved. I hope that we can consider getting a professional traffic study group and by the way, not take 3 years to do it. It obviously took us, God knows how long to cut down trees that we thought had to come down from the sidewalks. It'd be great if we could somehow push a traffic study through the town as a high priority, if there's any way to do it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Rosemary Padovano, 35 Sill Lane. I just wanted to start off by, first of all, thanking the Old Line Board of Selectmen and the Old Line Police and Westbrook Troop after their efforts this last week enforcing the speed limit on our roads, Sill Lane. Martha, Jude, and Jim, I thank you so much because honestly, this is the first time I've felt heard in our town. And it has been quite healing to feel protected this last week after this terrible accident. The situation has been night and day on Sill Lane because of the continued presence of the police. I know I know my neighbors feel exactly the same way. We're all very grateful. We're just at the beginning of these efforts, and there is still a lot of work to be done. Enforcement and ticketing, I believe, will be the most effective ways to change the tone of speed limit compliance in our town. Since there has not been much enforcement to date, drivers of every age take the speed limit as a suggestion. Most dangerously, we are setting a tone for our young drivers to go up at whatever speed they wish. Somehow in the driving education or parental education, our local teenagers are not understanding the consequences of excessive speed or showing regard for other drivers, for pedestrians on our streets. Unfortunately, I see enforcement as the only path forward in filling the void in their understanding. We have to make them understand that there are consequences to their speeding early on in their driving careers so we can deter them for the safety of all. Separately, and as a side note, the reaction from several teenagers to our accident has revealed the lacking in their emotional education and empathy, as some students think the destruction of our property is funny and that they feel entitled to continue to speed. Those comments have been noted on social media, and I would be happy to pass that information off to the Board of Education to handle separately. As I noted last week, this accident has brought two problems to light that we would like to address. Number one, to establish and clarify speed limit signage in our town. And number two, compliance enforcement and consequences for speeding in our town to deter drivers. As I stated last week, and perhaps the Board of Selectmen have passed that information off to the officers about the peak times, which I've noted from 7:15 to 7:30, 2:15 to 2:30. I'm sorry, also in the morning, it really continues until 9 a.m., but that peak time is between 7 and 7:30. Then again, between 5 and 6. And then in the summer, we deal with a separate issue, which is almost like drag racing. And that can be throughout any time of day. But we see it a lot at night between 10 and 1. As Maris Wax noted, there are no speed limit introduction signs to Sill Lane. So at the beginning of Sill Lane, when people come off of Route 1, I think that needs to set the tone. And personally, I don't even know if it's 30 or 25 at that point. I think there are a lot of residents on Sill Lane who would also say the same, that there's no clarity there. And then more importantly, I think that there is no speed limit sign from Saunders Hollow coming from 156. So you're nearly down Saunders Hollow halfway before there's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. And I had thought that perhaps that from Saunders Hollow to 156 would be a good position for the new flashing speed limit sign purchased by our town. I believe the best way to deter speeding is ticket enforcement at the peak hours I've described, as well as random hours, so we ensure compliance at all hours, not just the hours that become a pattern for enforcement. I beg the town of Old Lyme to continue their efforts to develop strategies in collaboration with the police department and with its residents and local experts to ensure its residents feel safe and heard before another tragedy even worse occurs.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience? Come up, sir. Hi.
I'm Bill DeYoung at 102 Sill Lane. I, for 15 years, I walked down Sill Lane every day, 4 miles, and I really never had a problem. But after the pandemic, things changed, including my driving changed during the pandemic. I went a little too fast. But I've been hit twice, knocked down twice, and I've had to stop walking on the road. I can't step off the road quick enough when I hear traffic coming behind me. For 15 years, you walk facing traffic. I mean, you walked with traffic and it wasn't a problem, but now no matter where you are. And the last time I got hit, I couldn't get off the road quick enough to avoid being hit. So it is a serious problem. I think I think I agree with most of the people who said that I think enforcement is the answer. I mean, I don't know what else you can do. I think those radar signs are helpful. Frequently, they're not permanent, so they last for a little while and then people forget about it. But I know they make me slow down even when I'm going down a hill and I'm going 2 miles faster than I'm supposed to. I slow down. So I think they're helpful. They probably would be helpful closer to the entrance, to the beginning of where the road starts rather than halfway down. And from all my time walking, I know that the hours in the morning rush hour and in the evening, those are the real dangerous hours because that's when everybody really puts the pedal to the metal. Having a police car there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to make any money, I don't think, especially if it says police on the door. The other night I came home in the rain and there was a car backed into one of the driveways and it said police and you could see it, a mile away. That's not gonna, I don't think that's gonna do the trick. So anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having this. I so appreciate it. I also appreciate the fact that you fixed the flooding at Crossroad. Thank you. And I appreciate your officers. My 3 uncles were officers. I know you're always stretched too thin. It doesn't matter what any study shows. Well, the parents are here. I'm sorry, Christine Grem, 15 Hawks Nest Road, and it's Grem, Grem, like Mary. Okay, Hawks Nest Road does not have speed bumps. Miami put speed bumps. Well, that didn't slow things down because everybody came to Hawks Nest Road. Hawks Nest Road put up 20 miles per hour every so many feet. That didn't slow things down because people see the ocean and they head for it. There's been 3 misses in the last 3 years with my neighbor's grandchildren riding their little trike on the side of the road. And this girl is looking at her cell phone and does not see the kids. I had to jump out, push the kid out. I did it. Push the kid out of the way and stand in front of, and she almost hit me. Okay. So this is serious, but officers can't be everywhere. This is what I would love to see. 3 of those, speed detection with a camera on it. So when you're going over, you automatically get your picture and you get a gobsmacked $250 speeding ticket that hits you in the face when you get home and check the mail or however long it takes. And 3 of them because Fox Nest Road is bad, 40 miles per hour near the state picnic area on 156 is bad, and 4 Mile Creek is notorious. And that's near a school system. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone? Come on up.
My name is Russ Bingham, and I live on 8 Mill Pond Lane.
Thank you.
And I think Rosemary Padovano and Bill DeYoung have said what I could say the same thing. I just would like to support what they've said. I also walk with my wife and dogs up Saunders Hollow regularly. We tend to walk more in the morning. And I think it's pretty clear that most of the speeding tends to be the kids that are coming from probably mostly Lime down 156, turning down Saunders Hollow. So that clearly, as Rosemary indicated with her times, that's when speeding is most likely to happen. And there have been times when it's pretty obvious that the speed is very excessive and dangerous. So I simply just think what they've said was very eloquent and well said, and I certainly support it. And I also, since the accident that happened recently, the work by the police force has been outstanding. It seems every morning when it's likely that people are headed to school, we've noted that there have been sirens just about every morning indicating that they're being pursued and stopped. So you're headed in the right direction. And it's certainly great that you've run this meeting, and good luck with it. And I'm behind it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Day Halsey. I live at 98 Sill Lane, right by Bill DeYoung. And I don't have anything new to add. I have 3 large dogs. I walk the length of Sill Lane almost every day, even in the rain sometimes. And I can only affirm that the speed is, I'm a parent of teenagers. They're certainly part of the problem, but it is across the board. People come off of Route 1 and they don't slow down. I live on the other end in the curve and we're waiting for someone to end up in our barn. And the way the speeds are marked, it's inadequate. It's not getting anyone's attention. You are now stopping people. It's made a big difference this week. I've noticed it. I walk at different times. I try for the middle of the day. That feels the safest, but we take up the lane. There's nowhere to go. It's a country road. 30 feels excessive to me because they're really, when people are walking, my youngest bikes on that road, and I live in this community because I want my child to live in a place where he gets to bike to school or to Subway with his friends. And I feel like his life is at risk every time he goes out on a bike on my street in my home. And that is very unsettling. This is not that kind of community. So I just encourage you to continue to pull these kids and adults over because I think it is making a difference. And thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Annie Fry, 26 Sill Lane. I'm here to support Rosemary and Marcello. Of course, they're our neighbors, but also we're on the curve, so it's really hard for people to see us when we're coming out of our driveway. So that's really scary. Every time I pull out of the driveway, I have to inch out and like open my window to listen for cars. And even then I'm like slamming on my brakes because they're going so fast. We don't like walking our dog on the road because it's just scary. We feel like we're going to get run down. And yeah, we're just like, I don't want to run on the road. I just feel like it's not safe. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, if there's anyone that's on the phone, if you, I'm sorry, Mary.
Big turnout in town. It's very nice to see the new Board of Selectmen at work. I appreciate it. I see that all 3 of you are listening, which our town couldn't ask for any better. I'm Mary Daly from Portland Avenue. I'm here on a different issue and not on the traffic, so I hope you'll still allow me to speak. I saw on the agenda that you have an item to replace the White Sands and White Sands for $92,000, the gazebo. And that's why I came here today. So I just have a few concerns. I've been to White Sands actually today. The gazebo is lovely. It seems structurally sound to me, needs new shingles, but I don't think that costs $95,000 to reshingle that. It seems perfectly intact to me. I understand that there was also a consideration brought by the Parks and Rec to rebuild or repair the White Sands bathhouse. But no, well, it's in their minutes, but it didn't come forward because there were concerns about zoning. And I'm not sure what those were. They were never specified, but I would like to know more about that. I understand also that the town has recently approved 68K for a new playground at Haynes Park and authorized additional funds for a new gazebo there, although there is some fundraising going on there as well for that, which is awesome, and a foot wash station. Haynes Park already has a lovely bathhouse, which is great, but honestly, I rarely see people at Haynes Park, certainly not the population that's at Soundview. As a taxpayer here, I am thankful that the proposal for bleachers for the middle school practice field at a cost of $467,000 or even $297,000 has been put on hold. Not having bleachers have never prevented me or my husband from attending any of our children's games or our grandchildren's games. In fact, we prefer our camp chairs to cold, hard metal. Bleachers were never a concern for us, and I don't really think that it would stop any parent or grandparent from attending games for their loved ones that they really want to see. There's also the 5.3 million senior center with 1.4 million overcharge reduced to 880, which is great. But sometimes these numbers that I read really do make my head spin, especially as I prepare my own taxes. Are we really that rich of a community here? Soundview, we used to have a gazebo near the parking lot that was removed and relocated 4 years ago to Cross Lane. Doesn't seem to get much use over at Cross Lane. It offered, though, a little bit of shade at Soundview, just a little reprieve from a hot, blistery day. And as a mother of 3 redheads and a grandmother now of a little platinum blonde, that gazebo was a godsend at times. But it's gone now. It's been gone for 4 years. And every year, the Soundview Commission has requested just $20K to replace it. And every year, that request has been denied. And I'm just wondering why. Soundview does not have a gazebo, does not have a bathhouse, does not even have a foot spray. Funds are requested and denied every year. I ask you please to explain why there seems to be such a huge discrepancy between Soundview, White Sands, and Haynes Park. If we can afford 95K here, 68K there, 80,000 here, there, why not spend just a little bit to improve the one area or one of the areas in town that actually brings in tourists and brings in revenue? I will say to you that yesterday there was a survey on the Soundview webpage, Facebook. And the survey was sort of like, should the town spend the money for these things for Soundview? 85% who responded said yes, but there was that 15% who answered no, it's just Soundview. I'm looking to this new Board of Selectmen to help the Soundview Commission and us, the residents there, to change that image across the rest of the town, because we are still viewed as just Soundview. We are not just Soundview. We are a vital part of your community. We are raising our own, by our own bootstraps, raising that community up. We do need your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else in the audience? Oh. Mrs. Bundy?
My name is Sarah Mundy, M-U-N-D-Y. I want to thank you all so much for doing what you've done in Sill Lane. It's fabulous. 3 years ago, we wrote a letter to the town about our concerns of coming out of our driveway. It's just as they come around the corner between, we've got the Kitchings Little House and Graybill's and Taylor's, and people pick up speed to come around that corner. We have almost lost it a couple of times, been teed a couple of times. We've had no reaction. from our letter, which as I say was several years ago. But we are so thankful that this is coming to the fore now. We really appreciate it. The recommendation, and I don't know that this is the right place to do it, but we would love it if there could be a 25-mile-an-hour sign between the Taylors and the Graybills. So as they were getting ready to go around the corner, if signage helps, the 25 miles there is no signage near us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Fred, did you want to say anything? Because I know you came in late.
Sure. Hi, my name is Fred Fenton. I live on the corner of Smith Neck and 156, and probably know my house has been struck 2 or 3 times in the last year. Numerous cars have gone off on the other side of the road into that little DOT triangle. And at times of heavy traffic, people are taking a left turn into Mile Creek, and cars regularly pass by the stop car on the right. And if you're trying to cross in the pedestrian crossway, cars will rarely stop. And with everything else that's going on in the intersection, it's something's bound to happen. I mean, so I know there's a current DOT study possibly being done of the intersection, and I appreciate that. And I know there's no immediate solution, but I appreciate your attention.
Anyone else from the audience?
Back.
Michaela.
I'm Michaela Pearson. I'm a member of the Sound View Commission. I live at 1 Portland Avenue. And I just wanted to speak to some of the things that Mary Daly spoke about. I feel that Mrs. Daly was very eloquent in describing the issue with the Sound View gazebo. I just want to make a correction that it was actually taken away in 2017. So it's been 7 years that the Sound View Commission has requested either replacement of that gazebo, transporting it back from Cross Lane. We were originally told that it was in too serious a state of disrepair to be repaired. Somehow it was repaired and turned up at Cross Lane. It has been at Cross Lane for the past 6 or 7 years. And every year the Sound View Commission has requested in our budget for between $15,000 and $20,000 to replace the gazebo that is missing. So I would just ask that if we're considering placing similar structures in other areas of town, that we can look at Soundview as well. There's no reason to wait for sewers or any kind of water or anything for that. I mean, it's just a gazebo, it just replaced what was there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, if there's anyone on the phone, I still need your name, complete name, and your address. Is there anyone on the phone? You can unmute yourself. Thomas?
Yes, this is Thomas Larson. I
Yeah.
live at 72 Corsino Avenue in Old Lyme. And my concern and question was again on the $95,000 for a gazebo in White Sands. I don't know a lot about it. So, maybe in the rest of the meeting, we'll learn more about, what's going to be a $95,000 gazebo, but that just seems like a gross overspending of our town money. And I also, advocate for Soundview as I live, right in the area. And we put in a request last year for bathrooms to rent a trailer or to possibly buy it. That was denied. They've put in money for a gazebo there. They've put in money for stuff. It's the only town area that actually generates revenue for the town. So to not see any money go back to Soundview and it go to these other beaches and it goes to Haynes Park and it goes to here, I just think that you guys should consider not spending the money there and possibly spending it in Soundview instead. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the phone that would like to offer public comment? Okay. I
Yes,
don't-
Dennis Maluzzo, 7 Portland Avenue.
Yep. Go ahead.
I have been a resident of Soundview for 73 years. And it seems that when Parks and Rec used to handle the parking lot, there was plenty of money generated by people out of the area that went into the town coffers. When the parking lot was moved to the auspices of Soundview Commission, Parks and Rec dropped everything. Parks and Rec run White Sands, used by residents only. They run Haynes Park, used by residents only. Cross Lane is really a rec area. Soundview has nothing. It's pretty sad. I believe, I haven't looked at the numbers, but we generate somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 every year that go into the general fund of the town of Old Lyme. The $95,000 for White Sands should be scrapped, and a gazebo should be erected at Soundview for the enjoyment of the visitors and also the rangers that work there. They need a place to get out of the sun when it's in the 90s. If Parks and Rec still had ownership of the parking lot, I believe that's what would happen. And over the past number of years, with the exception of speed humps, we've been kind of neglected. That's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Is there anyone else on the phone? Anyone else? Hearing none. To the fellow selectmen, Jude and Jim, we can open it up for general discussion. Matt, Wayne, Dominic, Ethan, anything that you have to say is certainly welcome. Someone asked what we had hoped, or I had hoped to accomplish today. I was really excited to see so many people come to a Board of Selectmen meeting. But I think that the way that things get done in a town is when people talk to each other and speak up when things are wrong. And with your help, we can get things done. But you can't go away today and be gone and not continue speaking up. You have to continue to help us. We are a town with many boards and commissions, and it's our volunteers in town who get things done. And we appreciate every single one of you. Whether we start a new committee, that's something that can certainly be done to work together on ways to solve problems, but we are going to need more immediate solutions as well. And at our last Board of Selectmen meeting, Jude initiated a motion, which we passed, and it was passed at Board of Finance as well, to buy additional digital speed signs, not trailers, but these are the speed signs that they've been around. We have one that's gone around town. It was battery powered. The ones that we would be buying now would be solar powered, and they tend to last longer as long as we have nice sunny days. Yes. So that is what we would be purchasing. And we also, if we purchase that, we would also be able to borrow one from Lime because they have one. So that would be an additional, and then we would be able to transfer back and forth between towns and make use of utilizing as many of them as possible. Jim or Jude, do you have any comments? Thoughts?
Sure.
I think, go for it, Jim. Go.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm glad everybody's here. I think that this is a very important issue. And thanks, OLPD, for being here and always being responsive to everybody's concerns and needs. So I'm hearing four things, apart from we do have a general problem in town with speeding and safety. So I think we're all agreed on that. So I'm hearing four different things that are coming out of this meeting. One is signage and the having appropriate signage, especially where roads where the speed limit is pretty high, like the state roads going onto a local road. That's essentially a whole rule pathway. So I think we do need better signage there, and we should talk with Ed and maybe identify those places. And this, I'll defer to Matt and the police department. You guys know how to do enforcement best, and so I can't really speak to the specifics of it. But I do know, as a guy, driving around, that if I turn a corner and I don't expect to see a police officer there, and suddenly there is one, I'm like, the heart stops, the foot goes on the brake, and my behavior changes, at least for that day. And if that becomes a random pattern, if we're driving around town and we don't know where you're going to be or when, I don't know. That's a suggestion. You know best about how that gets handled. But I am hearing that we need more enforcement, more ticketing. So I think, between the board and at your leadership, we can't figure that out. What's the best way to do that? Another thing I've been hearing is about, the high school kids and education, and a sort of social disconnect, which is a general problem I think we're having. And it's not just generational. It's not just kids these days. It's all of us, it's guys my age, it's kids. But I think, when you're 16, 17 in a car, that's a whole different set of hormones that, it's pedal to the metal. It's the thrill of first getting in the car. So, we need to talk with Region 18 maybe and see if there's some kind of a way in the school, whether it's in health class or whether it's student council or peer-to-peer, or I don't know what that strategy is, but to get in the school and kind of educate kids on citizenship more than anything else, just like being part of the community and not having the community just be a tableau for you to go out and, joyride. And how you reach people my age to do that, I honestly don't know. I would be reached, but it's, we have a citizenship problem in this country, and this is great. I think this is what it's all about. And how do we get more people involved in this process, whether it's coming to a meeting or reaching them where they are, to make them understand that they're part of a community, and to behave as such. And then 4, there's the long-term issue of having a study, traffic study, which I think, I'm always a little wary about studies because you spend $50,000, it comes out, everyone goes, yeah, this is great, it sits on a shelf. Right next to the study that you did 15 years ago. And so I'm going to more or less reiterate what I've been saying about a public safety committee to be formed with a representative from each quarter of the town, each neighborhood, maybe 5 or 6 people that can meet monthly with the police, that can wrap up all of this together, speeding, various quality of life issues where we can have representation, from Sill Lane, 4 Mile River, the beaches, Line Street, what have you, the different quarters of town, and sort of get a comprehensive idea of what the issues in town are. And that's more of a long-term solution, but those are my thoughts on how to approach that long-term. Oh, and finally, there's infrastructure. There's a lot of money out there for traffic improvement, sidewalks, transportation. There's plenty of studies, and they're good ones, about how you slow traffic down through infrastructure. There's plenty of studies out there on how you slow traffic down through infrastructure. And 156 is an example. When we did the sidewalk project on Hartford Avenue, there was a shared bike lane there. Now that's supposed to go all the way to Halls Road.
That's on hold until the state paves 156, and they're supposed to put that bike lane all the way out to the Baldwin Bridge. Now, there's issues about how you design it at the Baldwin Bridge to connect to the sidewalk there. So that all has kind of been put on hold because that is, tough. That's a tough intersection, the whole thing. Is there money to completely redesign it? That's a whole other process. But as we move forward, there is money available, there are programs available, and as we make those improvements, we should be looking at ways of slowing traffic down via infrastructure, via the way the road itself is designed. Because right now those roads are designed, when you're going down 156, it feels like you're on a racetrack. It's great. It's pitched perfectly. It's like it almost invites speeding. So, and then when you come to Fred Fenton's, all of a sudden someone's trying to take a left onto this country road that was Mile Creek, and you have chaos. And that can be, a lot can be done there, not even through traffic lights, but just by the way that intersection is designed, just physically. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
I only have one addition to what Jim said. Of course, I agree with him on the traffic, the patrolling, the signage, and the young people and older people acting like citizens of the community and being involved. But I'm hoping that maybe we can do some sort of community outreach, either through driver's ed or education with the schools. And I'm sure the police officers have done it. I see so many familiar faces. How to get the message through to the young drivers that are just getting their license, other than on a digital screen. I don't know if we involve LYSB or some of their peer leadership groups, but when I was a kid, of course, driver's ed was part of the school. And now I think there's so many other ways and different businesses that teach it, but there's got to be a way we can get it through on the driver's ed programs. And I know most young men, many women, it's like, I got my license. I'm going driving, and it's not a racetrack out there, or shouldn't be. And Ed Adantes has paving schedules, and everyone knows what they are. So those places are going to get hit hard again with speeders. So I don't know what the schedule can be, Matt. I know there's only so many police hours to spread around town, but if we could focus some of it on patrolling, ticketing, and stops, radar, whatever you use, it'd be helpful. So thank you. And you guys have done a great job. I appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Yes. I'll go.
Okay.
Thank you, the selectmen and everyone for showing up. Just to go over some numbers since the action that we had in Sill Lane last week. I did allocate more resources to Sill Lane, and we kind of, for lack of better terms, kind of blitzed the area to remind people again that there are speed limit signs there. So since we started it last Monday or Tuesday, I believe, we have stopped 50 cars, exactly 50 cars. At least 95%, those are your neighbors. People from Sill Lane, Saunders Hollow, very close by. So a lot of it is the people that live close by. Out of the 50 traffic stops, under 10 are 21 and under. So it's not just the youth, it's the adults that are not obeying the speed limit signs as well. Since 2020, I looked back, since 2020 up to this date, Sill Lane has had 5 traffic crashes for involving speed. The other one was a stop sign violation. If that number goes up because of the pavement, I don't know. We didn't see an increase in Grassy Hill. That was our big concern when that got paved. We did not see an increase in accidents on Grassy Hill. So hopefully that trend stays with Sill Lane, but we will continue enforcement. One of the statements was manpower. We have been understaffed for a number of years, and the current Board of Selectmen has actually been really great to the police department with helping our recruiting efforts. We should have a department of 6. We've been running with 4 for the last several years. Ethan Kula has been our most recent graduate, with over 18 years. So we have some life in the department. I have a recruit getting out on April 17th. So then we'll have 5 full-time officers. And we are in the process to put one more candidate through the academy in July 12th. So he'll be off of FTO sometime February of next year. So knock on wood, we'll be at full staff. When we give so much dedication like we have been to Solane up here, you have to understand other areas of the town drop.
Right.
That time that we're conducting enforcement is actually one of our prime times to be visible at the schools. I really don't need to say why we need to be at the schools, but those are the times that I dedicate officers to the campus over on Lime Street and then also on Mile Creek. So all well and good, we have traffic enforcement down on Solane, but we have a whole other section of the town and other roads, Browns Lane, Ferry Road, Mile Creek, that go without an officer. All right, so take a look at Ethan Kula here. This is your officer tonight until midnight shift. So Ethan Kula is responsible for over 8,000 residents. So that's traffic enforcement, general patrol, DUIs, and any other police services in the town of Old Lyme. For instance, Ethan got a DUI last week. We all agree that we should be aggressive for DUIs, correct? That one DUI that Ethan has, now he's tied up at the troop for approximately 4 hours. All right, so there's only so much that we can be spread thin. Memorial Day, that's game on for us. So these 8,000, now we're gonna double that to 16,000. Where do we concentrate our efforts? It's no secret, Soundview. Why? Because that's where we have our most problems. We have an influx of visitors, thousands every day. And if it's not kept in check, it becomes a very dangerous situation. And that tends to spread outward. So it's checks and balances. I like the idea of getting to the community, the schools. For the first time in over 20 years, we actually sent an officer to be DARE certified. It's not the DARE that you're probably thinking of or that we went through. So they deal with more with social issues, driving issues. So Officer Hackett, hopefully we can integrate him into the schools next year. And that's all the way from kindergarten up to 12th grade. So we'll be able to get in their minds before they get out on the street. So the first interaction they have with us will not be on a traffic stop. He's also car seat certified. So if anyone needs car seats, let me know. But again, it's just another way to deal with the public, all right, and reminding them. I think a lot of times people tend to forget and, the speed limit on my road, but yet you're driving to the next road and you're not really paying attention to the speed limit sign. That's a lot of times we find they're not doing intentionally. All right. The highest speed that I got was 48. Actually got it today. So that was on a 25. Majority of the speeds that we were getting were between like 30, 37 miles an hour. And again, it's a windy road, so it did exceed the speed limit. So again, our purpose there is to kind of remind everybody and issue a warning or an infraction, depending on the circumstances. That's under the officer's discretion. I cannot tell them to go write an infraction. That's illegal. I can't do that. There was also a comment made that they saw a patrol car sitting in the rain that said police on it without lights on or anything, just sitting there. That probably made you slow down though. All right, that's called omnipresence. So when he's sitting there, just because he's not actively doing enforcement, well, he kind of is, because people see that and they don't know whether he is doing enforcement or not. Even if he's doing paperwork, they see a cop car, like Mr. Lampo says, you probably, better slow down. Kind of gives you a little brain check. So I do like the idea of, I think it worked pretty well, and you can let me know in Solane. I think I have talked to a couple of you, said even when we're not sitting there, this last week kind of like brought everyone's attention to maybe we should slow down. I do like the idea, Mr. Lampos, we can kind of hit different roads. The intersection in Mile Creek and 156, That's a horrible intersection. I actually don't even use sidewalk there when I walk my dogs. I go down to the south side and cross there just because the visibility. So I don't know what is going to be done with that. I agree with you. I'm running across the street. I see it on my road. My car is parked outside of my car or my house. People fly by, with a cruiser in the driveway. So I get it. I'm a member of the community, and we'll cross Lime Street, and the next day when we're not there, they start it up again. So hopefully, we can all come together and figure out, maybe do we need to do a community message about speeding and traffic violations, because we can't be everywhere. And like I said, you have Ethan tonight. I mean, he's an awesome officer. He's great. But again, he is for your safety for 8,000 residents tonight. And if somebody gets a car theft or something, well, he's doing the investigation. So he's at somebody's house, not actively doing traffic enforcement. And then we're up at Sill Lane doing traffic enforcement, but we're ignoring Ferry Road and vice versa. And in the summertime, we're down at Soundview. So we can only be stretched so thin. But again, your selectmen have recognized the need that we are understaffed and have been very supportive of recruitment and allowing my officers to go to extra trainings for different type of enforcement. And also just again, the recruitment efforts. So if you know anybody that wants to be a cop, send them my way. But we're open to suggestions. Like I said, we can't do this by ourselves. I mean, we can go and hammer the heck out of people. That's not going to last forever. There's got to be a cultural change within our community, because we're not stopping people from out of town on these back roads. These are our neighbors that are doing it. So we're always open to ideas, and I'm glad that you guys are all here.
So I think what we've heard is that it would be a good idea to have some type of community involvement, a small group, maybe 4 to 5 people. Maybe we try to get people from the various roads that are affected, 156, Sill Lane, Mile Creek, and try to find people in the various areas where we're seeing excessive speeding. We're seeing it all over. I live in a horseshoe community, and I had 3 boys, and there were many neighbors who called me that said they come onto the street too fast. And there are young people on that street now that tend to take that first turn off of Browns Lane and come into the street a little too fast. And we need to be aware of it. And I think it might be nice to have a community message, and maybe that's something that group can do. In the meantime, Matt Weber and I and Ed Adante are going to the DOT on April 3rd to learn more about the paving schedule for 156. But while we're there, we'll be with DOT officials and we'll ask some questions about a traffic study. I know one was requested for 156. There are certain rules on 156 where blinking lights and speed lights can be and cannot be due to the fact that it is a state road. So we'll ask the hard questions and we'll come back with some information on those things. One of the things that came out of a traffic study are the very large stop signs at Mile Creek and over on Town Woods Road. And that came from a traffic study that was done by the state. They decided we needed those signs in those places. And we've had some discussions, and they sent us some crash data survey that Mr. Weber's looking over. And we're going to, we had asked if the signs could be reduced instead of 4 per street. Could they be reduced to just 1 and have it on the right-hand side of the road so that people would not think it was a 2-lane road? And I asked the request. She said, send it. I did, and stated where we would like them left. And I got back a response last week that my request was denied due to the crash data. And she said, if you'd like to go against our wishes, then you can propose to have it appealed again. So I asked Resident State Trooper Matt Weber to look at the crash data and see if he agrees with it. And once he gets back to me, that will be another discussion that I'm having with the state DOT on that subject. So if any of you are interested in serving on a small committee that would meet periodically maybe not, right, you know, like more often at the beginning and then a check and balance system as we go through. Please send me an email, send it to Jude or Jim. It's our first initial, our last name, and then at oldline-ct.gov. And that's better than using the Selectmen's where it says click here for Selectmen, because that goes to another email that gets monitored not as often during the day. So please use those and let us know if you're interested, and we'll get back to you. We have a meeting next week, so we will put some plans together then. But in the meantime, we will be purchasing. You're going to get me that ordering information for those lights. And that's been approved by the Board of Finance as well. Okay, so at this point, we're going to move on to new business. We just have a few quick things to do. So if you're interested with speeding and you want to leave, it's a good time. And at this time, I just need an amendment to add that one offer from the Old Line Town Band to add that under new business. So if Jim or Jude, if you would make that motion so we can discuss that.
Motion to add the Old Lime Town Band request to our new business.
Jude, will you second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
I do.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Guys, go back to work. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Take care. Does anyone have any discussion on the Old Line Town Band, or can we go to a vote? All those in favor of adding it to the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Aye.
No abstentions. Okay. So the first thing on our under new business is we just had a request from Harold Thompson, who wrote us a letter saying that he was a member of the Lower Connecticut Regional Council of Governments Regional Planning Commission. And he said that we do not have an alternate for that commission. He sits on it now. Howard Margulis, who's on the Planning Commission, has to be a member of the Planning Commission, has agreed to be the alternate, and he would like us to approve this position. He's currently an alternate on the Old Line Planning Commission. He'll be assigned a 5-year term in November on the Planning Commission, and he'd be a valuable asset to the Old Line Planning Commission as well as to the Lower River Valley Council of Governments.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote. All those in favor of naming Howard Margulis, to the Lower Connecticut Regional Council of Governments, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Any opposed? None. And move forward. Okay, the next one is the approval to replace the White Sands Beach gazebo at a cost to not exceed $95,000. The reason that this is on the agenda is not for us to approve the purchase of a gazebo or to replace a gazebo. The approval of this is to go to town meeting. We cannot approve this. During a finance board meeting last week, I should get this closer, sorry. During a finance board meeting last week, there was some discussion about this gazebo that has been placed on the agenda for 10 years by Mr. Bugby. The current gazebo has had many issues as far as through storms because it is a wooden structure and it sits in the sand. And he had asked for a more permanent gazebo with concrete base and then the 4-post holding up the roof line. It is not something that would be like purchased. It's not a $95,000 gazebo that we would purchase and just place there. It is something that it takes 4 to 6 feet of concrete for a base into the sand, and that is the additional cost. Parks and Rec had requested $75,000, but the quote was many years old. So the Board of Finance suggested they up it to 95. And that we place this on the town meeting agenda for April 15th. So this is something that would be decided by the people that come to the meeting. It is not something that's going to be decided by us. Certainly, we will have all looked at it. We've had members of the Board of Finance who had looked at it, that there were some liability issues because of broken pieces, soft footings underneath the sand that are rotting away. And those were the things that were most concerned. So because we have young children that sit on it, sit on the sides, whatever, we felt that it was the best thing to do to try to replace it. And it was no way meant to slight Sound View. It was because it was an issue that we felt we should try to replace it prior to the start of the beach season, if possible. If it passes, it passes. In the meantime, they're looking for quotes to see if it could even feasibly be done. So Eric Olson and Don Bugby and Ed are working on quotes. It may come up so high it's not even feasible to do it. At that point, we would have to decide if it remains on the town meeting, because it can always be taken off. So our purpose was just to approve it because the finance board approved it to go to town meeting. They sort of skipped us and approved it. So we are just skipping, we're going backwards this time. So this time we just need to approve it and then it can go to town meeting. So
I'll make a motion. I'd like to make
Go
a
ahead.
motion to recommend to town meeting on the agenda, the consideration of replacing the gazebo at White Sands at a cost not to exceed $95,000.
Thank you, Jude.
I will second the motion.
Jim seconds. Any further discussion from the Board of Selectmen?
I
Go ahead,
do
Jude, you
feel
should go first. Yeah.
I had not heard, and if I was not aware of the need or the amount of the expense to replace a gazebo at Soundview. I think that should be a consideration as well. And I would like to have more discussion about that, either with the Soundview Commission and the Board of Selectmen.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I want to speak to what Mary Daly and Tom Larson and Michaela, Dennis Maluzzo, to their comments, because and the first time, and honestly, the first time I heard about this gazebo and the price, I was like, what? Because of the gazebo issue at Soundview. And that's not just an issue of a gazebo, I think, and it's not just unique to Soundview. There's been a historic distrust between the beaches and the town for a long time. That's not a secret. And we've been trying to correct that. In Soundview, we've been trying to correct it at least for 20 years officially, trying to, as Mary said, bring ourselves up by our bootstraps and set an example, have people take us seriously. And I won't relitigate the past, but it's shocking sometimes the attitude that was exhibited towards Soundview and still is. So I hear these concerns. I can say I've looked at the capital budget going forward, and there's a lot of things that we've been talking about for 20, 30, 40 years. I'm finally seeing them on the capital budget, and I want to take that seriously going forward. I understand there's issues that we have to address immediately that fell on our plate, like ADA access in the parking lot at Soundview. So we don't want to do something down there. We're going to spend money and then have to respend it in 2 years because, we don't have a specific plan. So I think we do need to see a plan for the parking lot. And we do need to see a couple other issues play out this year to see what our options are in Soundview. But I think, we finally have representation on a couple of boards this year from people in Soundview. So I think those voices that weren't heard, people that felt they were excluded from the process or demeaned or dismissed, hopefully going forward, we can reach that gap. And Soundview does need a lot of infrastructure improvements because we get a huge influx of people from out of town. We're straight shot down from Hartford. A lot of people don't realize the number of people that come down And when they see a complete lack of facilities, which is unprecedented, no other beach of that size will not have bathrooms, We're relying on porta potties like we're at Lollapalooza or something, you know? And when you have that kind of infrastructure, which is none for bathrooms, people sort of act like they're at Lollapalooza. I think, you know, the physical plant is important. So the foot wash, the bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. And I know that we need the process to play out, but I'm seeing those items in the capital budget going forward. We have the voices. And so I don't want this to be a Soundview versus White Sands issue. If there's a need at White Sands, it really, you know, it shouldn't be something where, you know, people from, you know, other parts of town, like my part of town, would say, no, forget it. You didn't give it to us. You know, that is also part of town. We can use it. And I'm not saying I support or not support this, but I'll let the people decide and let's move it to the meeting.
So one of the things that I want everyone at Soundview to know, I mean, I have been very active at Soundview and I want what's best for Soundview. And I think that all of these things are necessary. But during the fall of 2023, there was a complaint made against the Soundview parking lot and Soundview parking on the street, which was referred to the Department of Justice. And I am in constant contact with a judge from the Department of Justice who, doesn't sound right when I use. Okay, so we have been in contact with him, and today, in fact, there was a large group down at Soundview trying to figure out how we can put in the necessary parking spots that we can into the parking lot. So based on the number of parking spots, we have to have 3 handicapped parking, but one of those has to be a handicapped van accessible. So currently that is going to take up 5 current parking spots that we have in that lot. And that has to be done. We had the representative from MobiMat with us, and we thought that MobiMat was going to be able to give us something that would be able to be placed down each summer and then would be able to be, but what the cost of just one mat to fit a parking space is $7,500. And that is just to get, and then those would have to be pinned into place. And then the cost being to rise very quickly. He is going to send us a quote, so we'll know what it is. And we'll have that going forward. He also sent us the corrective measures for replacing the blue sand mat that goes down to the beach. So we're going to be getting those as well this year. One of the items that came up, we had Ed Adante, we had Public Works there, we had Frank Pappalardo there, Katie Balaka, Amy Benatti, and Stephanie Gould were all there from the ADA committee, as well as myself. And we talked it through. Ed is going to get a paving quote for those 5 spaces. The 5 spaces we'd have to take up, because if he had it repaved, it may be cheaper than the MobiMats, and then the striping will be much easier to do and all the handicapped accessible signage. We do not know what that cost is going to be, but we have to do it by law. We have to get that in this year. We also are responsible for putting a handicap spot in on the street, and it has to have a cutout curb or be near a crosswalk so that anyone who has a wheelchair or a walker can go right to the ground and go up a ramp to get onto the sidewalk. So we were, as I had to leave to come to a meeting here, but they were working on where to place that on Soundview. And of course, that's going to take up another parking space on the street. So we're working through that, definitely. And we'll have more information, I hope, by next week.
And I'd also like to point out that before the 2 sidewalk projects that we had, which stretched over 3 administrations, Bonnie's, Tim's, and this one, that have been concluded, we had 0 ADA accessibility in Soundview. We had no sidewalks that were compliant. And those sidewalk projects gave us compliant sidewalks from Cross Lane to the police station from Shore Road down to the beach. There's a very short section south of Pond Road to the beach that's not compliant. It wasn't part of either project. But we have done an incredible amount of work, cross administrations, bipartisan, a lot of volunteers, a lot of committee meetings. And I think that's been very successful. And when people slam it as a boondoggle on the sidewalk to nowhere, it came in under budget and it gave us something that we really need. And now we're continuing to finish that infrastructure.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion, Jude? No. Okay, hearing none. We have a motion on the board to recommend to the town meeting to replace the White Sands Beach gazebo at a cost not to exceed $95,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and then any abstentions? Any nays? Sorry, any opposed? No. Okay, passes. Okay, and we have one more request for, from the Old Line Band. I received a letter on Monday, March 18th, last week, from the Old Line Band. It is to formally request that the town support the Old Line Town Band with a donation of $2,000. The band is a 401c volunteer nonprofit organization. It has supported and represented Old Lyme since its existence. We play free concerts at the senior center and the high school for the fireworks celebration. We also play on the public greens and participate in Make Music Day, all while supporting and representing our town. In 2025, we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary. We are having a musical piece written just for us in honor of that occasion. Barry Weiner, who's the vice president of the town band, said he would greatly appreciate anything the town could do for us. He's been a member since 1977, and he goes, I enjoy what we do and how we are there for the town. We are working hard, planning and budgeting for our 50th anniversary, so please let me know as soon as possible if there's any way we can count on your financial assistance. And I also had a brief conversation with him. It is also to purchase some new music for their 50th anniversary. So the piece that they're having done is done by a composer. The high school recently did this as well. They had a piece done for one of their, I believe it was one of their trips overseas. And they had a piece done, no, they actually had a piece done with another school. So they both learned it and then performed it together. And this is something that's come up in the last, I would say, 10 years, where they will hire a composer who comes and talks to the group and then decides and composes a piece for them to play. So I think the request would be that we would request to move it to Board of Finance. And then if the Board of Finance chose to donate this tomorrow night, that would be up to their option because it would be under our $20,000 an appropriation. As far as I know, the Old Line Band has never requested anything of the town in the past.
Martha, the request was for 2,000?
It is.
Okay.
Their total project, their total budget, I think, is somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 to prepare for the 50th celebration.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the $2,000 appropriation to the Old Lyme Town Band.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jude. Are there any further discussion?
I'm not familiar with having remembered anything done like this. I don't know if Jim might know any situations. Is it unusual? I'm fully in support. You know, if there's supporting the town, it's admirable.
Well, we support our other nonprofits, and since I've been on the Board of Selectmen, I know that the first year that I was on, Claudia Weicker came because Roger Tory Peterson had not was not in the budget for that year, and she asked for a $10,000 appropriation that year, and it was granted.
I think they're a terrific institution.
Do they think You're on delay, I think.
I never remember them even asking for funding, so of course I'm in support of it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a terrific institution. They do so much for our town.
They do.
Mhm.
These are all volunteer.
We do as a town.
Okay, so hearing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. That will go to vote, and I just need a motion from someone to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Jude. Thank you both for being here today. We are all in favor of adjourning. Thank you so much.